today we're going to be talking with Louise Lucas from the Property Education Company, and it's all around your financials. Our show today is titled Embarrassed About Your Financials. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome Louise. Welcome.
Hey, I'm a bit overcome by your intro with the fun and cool. I'm fun, but I'm not so cool.
I reckon you're cool. Talking about cool and fun, what would you like to share about yourself so people can get to know you a bit better?
Well, but I've been property and buying and selling and developing for many, many years, embarrassingly so, how long. But one of the things, as I've learned more as I've got older with financials, is you really need someone, if only I'd known now what I knew then what I knew now. And that's why I love being able to help people with their financials. So don't feel ever embarrassed. That's one of the things. And the other thing I do to make myself uncomfortable, which I think is good for keeping yourself learning and growing, is singing. So I sing with a choir and we sing in front of each other, and anybody wants to join can. It's awesome, but it makes us, putting yourself out there and singing can be very uncomfortable, but it's okay. Being embarrassed is good for you. So, but it's all good to share it with people who are friendly and lovely. That's the important thing.
Excellent. So I can relate to being embarrassed about my financials. I, in the past have been and avoided, getting others to look at them. I wanted to buy another investment property, but I put it off because I'm like, I've got debt there, and there's a lot of unanswered questions for me, and I was too embarrassed to show people. What would you say to people who might be in the situation like me, where they're a bit embarrassed about, say, debt?
That's why you got to find a good broker, because if you find someone who actually understands what it's like to have, like most of us brokers are in, if you've been around a few blocks, and we know that there's so much better. If people talk to us about it, we can actually help you make a plan to get out of things, and give you that focus for the future. I find way too often, Maureen, and look, you and I've had great discussions and we've shared things over time, and it's really good to be able to just share it with someone who understands, knows what it's like to go through, and helps you get a route out of that quagmire. And a lot of times you're actually talking yourself down when you don't need to. You could actually be in a much better position than you think. And I find that happens more and more, particularly in this COVID time. People are getting really stressed and worried about things, and actually they're in quite a good position. So they just need someone else to help them focus on the future and see a way out, and then they go really well, So
awesome. So my question is, because we don't talk about this stuff. We're not in in a society that we talk about money. Parents often don't even talk about money to you. So can you give me an example of what some things that's really common for people around their financials, or things that aren't quite right for them?
When people will worry about what banks might have said. And I was just looking at an article on 5 lies not to tell your bank, and people don't say if they think they can remove children from an application, which is always hilarious, and yet at the same time, yeah, I know. But then you look through their living expenses, and the banks are simply trawling through and going, and sometimes they're even checking on people's Facebook feeds. So watch out. There's plenty of opportunities for them to check out what's going on with you. And so what I would want is, so we were talking about
so some of the troubles so one thing they might do is like, I've got too many children, or I want to hide my children. But what are some of the things that, do people have a lot of credit card debt? Do they have big expense? Like what do we get embarrassed about?
Yeah, totally. Too many car loans, too many personal loans, having accumulated debt from, like, they might have refinanced credit cards into a personal loan and then done it again, which is just like the highway to hell. And you just feel like they're not getting any real advice. They're thinking that's how they're managing, but really they should be talking to someone to help them stop that sort of behaviour. One of the things people get embarrassed about is playing or that sort of thing, and they should be maybe talking to someone and get their credit activities so that people can't see it.
Yeah.
And
sorry, you just cut out then. You cut out then. Could you just repeat what you said?
Sorry, I was just talking
you
about.
Just cut out then. Sorry. What did you just say?
So home on their internet, and so the internet's gone, to crazy. I'm sorry about that. Too many, maybe refinancing credit card debts into personal loans and then doing it again, really not actually looking at their budget or behaviour that caused these problems in the first place. And the other thing that people might not realise is the banks do not like you using Afterpay. I think it's because they haven't got any input into it, but watch out when you're applying for a new loan. Don't use Afterpay and other things because the banks might want you to remove that. And some people have an open credit facility there of $20,000. Needless to say, the banks count that against you. So be very wary about those sort of things that you should avoid when applying for a loan or getting some help when you're looking at your financials. The other thing most people are embarrassed when we're talking about financials is many small business owners don't know how to read their profit and loss or their balance sheet. They take what they've done at the end of the financial year, and usually too late to do anything about it in July or August, with the many accountants who don't actually proactively help people. And then they end up going, oh, well, now I've got to pay this tax or not pay this tax, and try and reduce their income. Then they can't borrow and they don't know how to proceed. And they need some clarity around, are we actually making money? How do we go forward? How do we make more? They instead spend their whole lives in business just trying to avoid paying tax, which is crazy. You actually need a way forward to actually increase your earnings and be profitable and be confident that you're doing it the right way, and have a plan to keep going instead of just spending your life worrying about, not being able to pay whatever. So it's about control and organising your money properly, really.
Yeah, and that really hit home for me the point about the planning. So so there's a few things you've come up there. There's like actually getting your head out of the sand and looking at it, whether it's bad or not, as a good first step. But then planning for the future. So how long should you start? How long before should you start planning before, say, you want to purchase a property?
I would give it 3 to 6 months, definitely, at least 3 months, and talk to someone competent so that you've got a very clear idea. But if you've been running a loss on your business but paying yourself, well, that's no bank's going to be thanking you for that. So then you might look at a low doc loan, which is quite possible. If you're making money, that is perfectly acceptable, but not many lenders do them anymore. So we've got to be a bit, careful about how we proceed. But if you're confident in what you're doing and you've got someone who can go through the figures and explain it to you, then you'll find you do. Like, I've had a wonderful conversation this week, Maureen, I've got to tell you, with a client who's increased his earnings enormously, and he goes, but it's okay because I'm all organised now. Here's my tax, it's already allocated for, I know exactly where I'm at. So there's no fear. It takes all that fear away. Instead of, often in small business, people are just running on fear the whole time because they're never sure what they're earning or how much they've got in the bank. Whereas often people, that's why they revert to PAYG or getting a wage, because they just like the surety of having that income. But the risk you take is often very well rewarded if you know which way to go. So it's worth it if you know what you're doing.
Yeah. And then also, you mentioned your having a good accountant that helps you with your forward planning. So how closely should an accountant and the mortgage broker work together through the process of sorting out your financials so that you can get a property?
Yeah, a great question. The great accountants I work with are always proactive. They confer with me to say, right, is this what, going to help you and the clients get the best result? So they actually work with us to make sure that the clients are presented in the best possible light, and they can actually defer some expenses to the following year or whatever to make the actual accounts give us the best possible chance for getting a great loan for someone. And if they need to buy and move ahead, then this is what they need. So I love working with really proactive accountants. We have a few who are fantastic for our clients and really help them.
Yeah, great. And what about, it's come up in the news a little bit lately, even advertising for people around their credit score. So I know the criteria around credit.
Yeah.
Yeah. So tell me about the credit score, how it affects you, what goes into it, etc.
Yes. Well, what I advise people to do is go to mycreditfile.com.au and get their own credit file, not just a score. So don't rely on the score, because that's not necessarily what the lenders are looking at. So your score may not reflect all the activity that's gone on in your file, and that can present different things. Lenders do not, you might have a great score but have multiple entries for the wrong things. So you need to be aware of what's on your file. I've had someone, particularly over this COVID period, they had arranged a payment pause on a loan, and that didn't actually happen in their accounts for a couple of months. So that really negatively impacted their credit file. They weren't aware of it. And when we're applying for a loan, that can make it really difficult for them. So we need to actually know about that up front and explain it to a lender who will not do an automatic credit score failure. We want someone who will actually assess the application properly. So it's really important to not just do a credit score. All that's doing is handing over your information and your email address to someone who may not have your interest at heart. At least use the facility that the banks use, which is
which is mycreditfile.com.au. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, that's exactly right. Yeah. mycreditfile.com.au. Thank you.
And so is this free for people to access?
Yes, it can be free. You can pay, and you can also pay a reminder on file, which I think is quite useful if you're active in credit. I like to know if anyone's looking at my file for whatever reason, and so I get an email alert should that ever happen. But I get one.
So Louise, you're cutting out.
Your credit file free each year.
Okay, great. So could you just repeat for us the bit about the credit file? So you can get it done free in the beginning, and then it costs if you do it again. Is that correct?
No, you get it free once per year. So you will definitely get it free once per year. You've just got to apply down the bottom. It's a bit obscure, but make sure you go to the right place, and you will get it free, and it'll be emailed to you after a week or so. But if you want it instantly, you have to pay.
Right.
Can you hear that, Maureen? Is that okay?
Yeah, that was good. And then just say you get it. Is it worth talking to someone like you? Because I might get it and then not really understand it. So what do you do once you get it?
No, absolutely. Feel free to make an appointment and have a chat with someone. A good mortgage broker will easily be able to assess that with you and then help you make a plan for the future with your finances. So we can know then what you should do to clean it up, or if it's perfectly acceptable, and away you go.
Yeah, excellent. And so what sort of things go into your credit file?
That's a great question. At the moment, the banks can see any activity on your loans for the last 2 years often. So they'll see if you've missed one payment, see the entire thing. So it's really important that you know about it before someone else does. So if you always pay on time, and this is a great tip to people, please pay your bills on time. Don't think it's okay to pay a little late because your wage is coming, or whatever's coming later. It's assessing you and be about this for you. So be really careful about paying your bills on time and promptly, and always clearing your debts in your credit card if you can. And if you can't, if you've got a credit card debt that you just can't, so that ceases. Okay.
So, what do you do if you can't pay on time, or if you've got a bit of debt, credit card debt?
Well, work towards it, and or else don't be applying for finance when those sort of conditions have been in place. So be wary about that, because lenders can see it and it shows behavior that you're not managing. So get some help, get someone else to assess it with you, because there's lots of opportunities to actually help you get it. Don't do it alone. That's the main thing. It's only money. And there's nothing worth worrying about in money that shouldn't be. Health should be a better priority for us all. So, and what money causes more upset and divorce and problems for people than anything else. So please let someone help you is the main message I want to get through.
Yeah. And so, it's just say I sat down with you when we looked at the credit file, and just say there was bad behavior or whatever. So, and then you plan for the future. So with banks, just say I wanted to get another property, more finance. Do they look over the 2 years, or is it patterns of behaviour over the, if you start cleaning it up over 6 months, or how does that work?
I will certainly consider the last 6 months, but what I would do is, if we had something that might have been an episode of when you've run into difficulty, let us explain it to a lender so that they know up front, so they've got less thing to worry about. It's much more difficult if you're trying to hide it from them, because they'll see it anyway. So far better that you get us to review it with you. We explain it up front, and then your ongoing behaviour is good, and we say, look how they've managed now, and they're great, and give the proper story. It's really important, because people just love to know the truth about things. Don't think you can hide it. It's all over the internet. They've got it all, believe me.
Yeah, and I love that, because in the old days it felt like you were just sort of submitting forms. But I love that it sounds like there's, you can give a story, an explanation, the bigger picture.
Yes, you definitely can. I definitely want people to feel if they have any issues, they can get it explained and then move forward. It's not, your history doesn't follow you like forever and you can't do anything about it. You can, definitely do something about it.
Yeah. And then what about for people in business? People often don't understand their profit and loss, or their cash flow, or, those sorts of financials. So what's the most important things they need to get their head around?
Each month, if not even, I keep a record weekly of what I'm spending in and out, but I think at least monthly you need to have allocated, it out your tax, a little bit for profit. Have you paid yourself? Have you paid your bills? Unfortunately, most small business owners go through, pay all their bills, and then go, oh, what's left for tax and for my...
Yeah. So again, it sounds like it's that planning.
All this is, and there's nothing left. Yeah, but I'll tell you, I can recommend the Profit First book. I think that's a huge game changer for people. Please have a review of Michael McCallowitz's book Profit First, and the team in Australia who run that are really excellent. I think that has a huge help for people in managing their small business or medium business.
Yeah. And so tell us a little bit about the philosophy of Profit First.
Sorry, I missed the end of that.
So tell us a little bit about the philosophy of the Profit First.
It says when whatever income you receive, it's divided up instantly into how much tax you've got to pay, how much your expenses, all allocated from the minute it receives. So there's no scrounging around at the end of the month looking for income to pay your BAS or whatever. So it's already allocated. It should be clear.
Yeah, awesome. And so we've talked a lot about, getting support to look at your finances so you can plan. Even if it's bad now, you can always fix it.
And it's
And
short
also
term.
feels,
Yeah,
yeah, it feels so much better to just go, to make that call or, get that support.
yeah.
My next question is around the property market at the moment. So what insights have you got around, is it going to continue to grow here, in Australia? There's been tremendous growth during COVID, especially in unusual, areas like in beach areas, etc. Are there any patterns that you can share with us or advice around property at the moment?
I can't see the market carting out anytime soon. There's a huge backlog of need for people to purchase, particularly in Melbourne, because we've been down for so many people get into the market. And one of the things, though, that people get put off because they see places going for much more than they thought, but they're still running the race of the vendor. Don't run that race. Run your own race is so important. You need to be able to assess, this is my budget, this is what I'm paying, and then go and meet that, not the other way. So one of the things people get too caught up in is, the agent says this, or the vendors want this or that. There's always someone needing to sell. And if you know what they need, maybe you meet their needs better. So recently some clients of ours were selling a property, but they got to stay in that place until next year because being there
Yeah.
and not.
Yeah, you just cut out that last little bit. So that sounds like
So I was saying
meeting needs. Go on, and finding some sort of deal. So you're actually meeting their needs in that, giving them a longer settlement time, or letting them stay in the property or whatever it is. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, exactly. Totally. There'll be something about a vendor that they really they need, and you can meet that because of whatever reason. So find out what the vendors want. It's not always just about money. So people are crazy if they think that they just get hung up on just paying more and more and more. That's not always the answer by any stretch of the. And I've had plenty of people get great deals, even in this market this year, because they've just given the right offer to the vendors, which find out what they want. And that's where we help people a lot with their offers. So
yeah, because I remember the first property I bought in the CBD in Melbourne, back in the lovely days when it was, 197,000.
good.
Yeah, well, that's what I ended up paying. But this guy wanted to sell really quickly, and he wanted a really short settlement, and I went a little bit under what what the price was, but I thought that it was fair. And we signed the deal that day.
Mm-hmm. Yes, often a speedy settlement is the answer. Now, in this market, you have to be careful with which lender will give you that speedy settlement, because some are fast and others are really agonizingly slow. So be careful about where you're getting your loans from, because sometimes if you need it in a hurry, there are lenders who are always great in this way, but there are others which will make the whole process a bit more painful. So be careful. There are the effect of COVID, so they want your latest payslip or your latest BAS to show what activity you're actually doing.
Yeah. So
they want to make sure you're still employed today.
Yeah. Do you know what also has hit me too? Often we clump people together, like we'll clump banks together, and like every bank behaves the same way. But it sounds like the different lenders have different criteria. Is that true?
Yes. Heaps of lenders, they're all different. And that's why it's so important to deal with a broker who can actually help you assess your circumstances and fit you to the right lender, not the other way around. And I found a couple recently, terrific, huge incomes, great, went directly to a bank, were refused from one score, refused it a second one. They said, we can't do this by ourselves. This is crazy. You know, they're earning 200 grand and they can't get a loan with, you know, a 20% deposit because of, they didn't realize postcode restrictions or property type restrictions. So it really depends. You need to have your needs met by the actual lender, so we fit you to the right lender, not you going to the lender. And this is where people get really confused. They look online and you just get overwhelmed with information. So sometimes it's great just to have a chat with someone who can clear that for you.
Yeah. So a theme that's really coming through from your support, Louise, is you start with yourself in mind. So you're not kowtowing to a lender or to a vendor or to anyone. You're working out what your needs are and then seeing if you can, you know, if you get those needs met while still creating a win for the other party.
Yeah, it absolutely can do both. You can absolutely do both. So don't necessarily, and the other thing about credit files is people often go and apply at multiple lenders and then they've got all these hits on their file, which will then make them an automatic fail somewhere else, even though they haven't even got a loan. So be really wary about shopping yourself around because that can cause issues too. So it's a big area. Recently, my son's qualified as a broker too, Maureen, and he's going, how on earth would anyone do this without support? It's crazy, you know. It can be so hard.
And so just to clarify what you said, so just say I try and get a loan with a lender and the lender says no, any no goes on your credit file, and they build, so you might have a list of no's to everyone that you go, and then the next lender is going to look at that and go, oh, well, you know, A and Z said no, so, oh, well, I wouldn't trust it then. So they're looking negatively upon it.
And it might not be even that someone's looked at it. It can be just an automatic fail on a system. It can be in the background. They have computers. The major banks have computers that say, well, if you've had entered. So it's really someone who understands the process and knows what to watch out for so you get the right help. So don't be embarrassed. Come and call. That's what we're saying to people. You know, never be embarrassed. Be you know, you'll be supported. And there are thousands of great brokers out there. And what I love about being a mortgage broker is most people, you know, a lot of people will say, oh, I love my broker. They really helped me and I'm happy to recommend them. And I love being in a profession where people actually get that support from others. So that's really good.
Yeah. I've had my third property purchase. I used a broker who just went to the ends of the earth for me. And I was in a tricky spot and so I'm getting what, you know, they really go the extra mile for you.
Yeah, we absolutely, because if we can't satisfy you, you won't use us again. And that's the important thing. You know, we are in small business too, so we need to keep clients happy and satisfied, and that's why they come back, you know.
Yeah, exactly. So on that note, if people would like to have a chat to you about their current situation and not be embarrassed, what's the best thing for them to do?
Well, they can whop onto the Calendly link and book an appointment. That's easy, or email us. And we have a team of 4 brokers now, and lots of us can help you. So there's plenty of opportunity. So make sure, don't do it alone. Feel free to have an early chat. It's okay. I don't mind we never mind giving a bit of support early on, and then people can, you know, when they, if it's for even 6 months or 12 months in advance, it's okay. It's better that we actually get it right and set you up properly. And then they get to hear from us and get the right information. So that's really important.
Awesome. So if anyone would like to book a chat with Louise, it's calendly.com/Louise, calendly.com/Louise. Highly recommend having a chat to her. She's been really supportive of me in the past, and Carmen's currently going through Louise to buy her investment property, her first. So it's all very exciting. And I think, and I love it. I love the way you say it as it is. And so, you know, with Louise, what you see is what you get. She'll just, you know, it's no sugarcoating stuff, but you know what you stand, where you stand, and you know what you need to do, what you need to get in place. which will make you feel better, but also make your financial situation better as well as you embark into the property market, or for people who've got property and want to buy another one. Louise is a great person to talk to.
Thanks, Maureen. Also, if people just want their rates reviewed, please let us have a look. And because often the rates at the moment, and so many reading offered by lenders to help, even if you've been in a fixed rate and you're thinking, gosh, I'll never get out of this, we have ways to actually get you a rebate, pay for the the break fees, and then get you moved on to something better, which can help cash flow. So give us a call, we can give you some ideas.
Yeah, great. So if you're thinking, if you've been a bit, I must do that, in terms of your rates, which often happens to us as well, we go, I must look at that rate. I'm sure I can get a better rate. Then contact Louise as well. So thanks, Louise. It was very insightful talking to you as always.
Thanks, Maureen. It's lovely to chat with you. It's great, and we love helping people. That's what makes it worthwhile, and I love it. With everyone locked down, now's the time to look at your finances.
Exactly. You've got plenty of time to stare at a computer screen. Okay, thanks, Louise. So if you'd like to see more interviews with amazing business owners sharing extraordinary insights, click subscribe, then click the bell button, then click all, and we'll notify you.